Update. Am I the a-hole for shutting down my wife's party favor idea? Original post. For some context, the story starts last year at our 7-year-old son's birthday party. I, 32 male, and my wife, 32 female, held the party at our home. We decided to leave the bulk of the planning to my wife, as she loves this kind of thing and wanted to take the reins. I had no reason to doubt any of her plans, as she did a great job with our past parties. I handled invites, food orders, and anything else she needed me to do. To her credit, she did a great job with the party itself. Everything ran smoothly and the kids had a great time. Until she brought out the party favors that she had kept a surprise from me. They came out when our friend had to leave with her daughter right after the cake. Before she could, my wife went into the back room and came out with a bag, the biggest grin on her face. What was inside the bag, you ask? A small tetra fish from the pet store, to be given as a party favor. My friend was flabbergasted. Her daughter's face beamed with excitement at the sight of her new pet. "Mommy, I've always wanted a fish." My friend was at a loss for words, only glaring at me. She declined the fish, walking out of the party while her daughter clung to her, throwing a tantrum about turning down her new pet. Obviously, the chaos caused a scene, as all the children now knew about the fish. Every single parent in the room was pissed, glaring, muttering, the whole works. What are we going to tell our kids? Great, now I have to get a fish tank. Most parents obliged and reluctantly accepted the fish. The whole time, my wife was elated at the sight of the happy children, oblivious to how their parents reacted. We ended up having to take a few fish home that had been turned down, meaning we also had to buy a tank. My wife couldn't understand why anyone would pass up a wonderful 50-cent fish she grabbed that morning from PetSmart. Fast forward to now, 1 year later. It's a month away from my son's 8th birthday party, and my wife broached the topic of party favors. She exclaimed that we should hand out fish again. The kids loved it. It was a hit last year. I do not want to go through this again. Several of my friends who were at the party complained about having to take care of these fish, being put in a situation where they felt pressured to accept the gift to avoid upsetting their child. They had never received such a ridiculous party favor, and they wouldn't be attending if this was the case again. Not to mention, this feels horribly abusive to the fish who now have owners who don't want them. My wife brushed all of this off, saying that the parents were being selfish for not thinking about what makes the kids happy. She apparently didn't notice anyone upset at the party, only focusing on how the kids felt. She's calling me controlling, saying she doesn't even want to plan the party if she can't have this her way. All of her small group church friends agree with her. I don't want to upset my friends by putting them in an unfair situation, but I don't want to upset my wife because she truly does enjoy putting these events together. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for telling my wife not to buy a party favor fish? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the a-hole. She gave the parents an obligation, not a treat for the children. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of parents RSVP'd no this year. And if she does fish again, no one will come to her son's parties again after this. She needs to think about her son and his future. She needs to think about the fish. She needs to think about the other parents and her spouse, OP, instead of getting her jollies off kids being excited, while she makes everyone else miserable. You're absolutely right. It's so unfair for our son if his friends don't attend because of her actions. Definitely not the a-hole. Borrow someone's dog for a day and say you got it as a birthday present and see how she reacts. Unless she would love that, then don't. Maybe a snake or something. I like the way you're thinking. The issue is, she argues that she would love to receive pets as a gift since she loves animals. Now for the first update. Hey Reddit, it's been nearly a month since I posted about the party favors situation between my wife and I. My son had his birthday yesterday. I wanted to share an update on how everything turned out. I took your guys' advice and decided to just talk to her. I used a lot of your points from the comments to reason with her, especially the ones about animal abuse. My wife just kept insisting that I was controlling, eventually just shutting down and walking away, giving me the silent treatment. For those of you asking if this has happened before, yes. Not the party situation exactly, but the "I'm going to make a horrible, selfish decision, and if you push back, you're controlling" behavior. She has. backed out of multiple parties and events last minute because she didn't feel like going, and accused me of abandoning her when I told her I still wanted to go. Insisted I stop playing guitar because she finds it annoying. Attended a wedding in a swimsuit because she was told there was a pool. Proceeded to spend the whole reception at the pool because they're your friends. I don't really care about celebrating them. Pushed back on my insistence to find a new school for our son, even though he was being bullied, because she didn't feel like causing a scene. Our son is in a new school now and he's much happier. I was fed up and refused to give in. I can't let my son go through this, and I'm not letting him lose friends because of my wife's selfishness. After literally following my wife around the house, trying to get her to talk to me, she said, "Fine, if you want it your way, you can plan this party yourself." So I did. I planned the party myself, besides the invitation, location, and date, which were already planned. My wife also demanded on picking out the cake, and that wasn't the hill I was willing to die on. It wasn't anything special, but I'm actually kinda proud. It was Jurassic Park themed. My son and I just watched all the movies together, and he adores them. He's really excited for the new one. I themed each table around different dinosaurs, and put little plastic dinosaurs everywhere. As for the party favors, I gave out little bags of candy. Nothing amazing, but the kids were happy. My son was thrilled, and no fish were harmed in the making of this party. After the party, my wife kept telling me how lame everything was. That the party was boring, and the kids weren't literally jumping up and down for my candy party favors like they were for hers. Frankly, I don't care. Sure, the kids didn't have a brand new pet to bring home, but at least my party favors didn't piss off all of our friends and doom my son to a life of friendlessness. Truly, I don't know how things are going to go with my wife and I. I'm reaching my limit with her insanity. I've tried insisting on marriage counseling, but she refused unless it was done by the pastor of our church. We went, and it was a whole session of the pastor telling me I'm not a good enough man to take care of my wife, about how I'm turning away from God with my actions, and that's ruining our marriage. Needless to say, we haven't gone back, and ever since my wife loves to use this session against me in arguments. I loved her, but I'm finding it harder each day to keep being in love. I hate the idea of my son thinking this is a happy marriage and that this is a healthy way to live. Divorce scares me, but I don't know if I can live with this anymore. In the end, thank you Reddit for helping me realize that there's a lot going wrong in my marriage, far beyond a forced fish adoption crisis. I have a lot to think about, but for now, I'm going to finish watching Jurassic World with my son, who's curled up in my lap. By the way, 2 of the 3 fish we had to take home last year are still going strong. They've grown on me, but damn, I'm never getting another fish. Divorce and being happy and focusing on your son is more important than being miserable and putting your son in a home with a narcissistic wife. I can absolutely understand this. My son is my priority. Her church puts a ton of pressure to never divorce. She gets so much support through them. They view me as the bad guy. Good thing the church doesn't decide if you can or can't get divorced. You're 100% correct. Seeing a pastor is not marriage counseling. You see a properly trained psychologist or trained marriage counselor for marriage counseling. Religion should never come into marriage counseling. Given the examples you have given, your wife sounds very strange indeed. And selfish. I know we can't tell from just hearing one side, but it sounds to me like your problem is a wife who just wants everything her own way and is unable to compromise and/or negotiate. Sounds like she knew the pastor was going to side with her. Now for the second update 2 months later. Reddit, it's me, the guy with the wife who gave out fish as party favors. I'm back, and I wanted to update you guys again on how things are going, both because I've seen some eagerness for updates and because this has become a great place for me to vent. To make a long story short, we've decided to get divorced. To make a short story long, here's how we got here. I took a lot of your comments to heart about divorce and abuse. I've taken a lot of immaturity from my wife over the years, but I told myself I was in the wrong. It's easy to see from the outside that I was in a bad situation, but when you're in it, you don't realize how tough everything gets, because it becomes your normal. The fish story was just a tipping point. We went on vacation a couple of weeks ago. We traveled down to Georgia to stay with my wife's parents. To put some perspective on how I've been manipulated throughout this marriage, my in-laws agree with their daughter on just about every disagreement we've had. They once sat me down and lectured me about how I'm not making enough money to support their daughter, that she shouldn't have to work, and that I'm not a good enough man or husband because I don't take her to Disneyland every year. They're very much ingrained in the church culture, hence why my wife relies on her church and church friends for literally every bit of advice. During our trip, we all went to Cracker Barrel. The whole time, my mother-in-law and father-in-law didn't talk once to each other. They stared at their phones or at their menus, and everything just felt so cold and uncomfortable. They weren't in love. They seemed just annoyed to be around each other. And it hit me. That's my wife and me exactly. And that's how it's going to be for the rest of our lives. It's not going to get better. I excused myself to the bathroom and cried. It wasn't about the fish or her wearing a swimsuit to a wedding. I wasn't happy. I was being gaslit constantly, blamed for everything, and was stuck in an emotionally abusive marriage with a childish wife who won't take no for an answer and wants everything her way, or else I'm apparently a horrible monster. I told my wife later that evening that I wasn't happy with our marriage. Maybe I shouldn't have started this conversation on vacation, but I just needed to get everything off my chest. She admitted she wasn't happy either, but just kept telling me that we should try to make things better, that we needed to stay together for our son. When I asked her what we can do to make things better, she said, "I don't know. I don't want to talk about this right now." We left it at that and went to bed. We really weren't getting anywhere. We didn't say a word about it for the rest of the trip. We spent a lot of time apart. I took my son for walks and hikes that my wife didn't want to go on. We all watched movies together, trying to keep the happy act up to avoid ruining the trip for our son. It sucked, but I do think he had a good time regardless of everything. A couple of days after we got home from the trip, I got a call from my mom. She was in tears on the other end, asking about my marriage and what was happening between us. Apparently, my wife had called my mom to vent about how terrible of a partner I was, about how I demanded we have sex. Not true. Our intimacy in general was extremely lacking, and she shut down any attempt without negotiation or conversation. I never demanded anything. How I don't make enough to allow her to be a stay-at-home mom. She hates cooking and cleaning. I'm not even sure what she would do all day as a stay-at-home mom. And again, about how controlling I was. I tried reassuring my mom as best as I could, and she said she understood that I had good reasons for how I was behaving in our marriage, but that essentially fractured my relationship between my wife and my mom and pushed the end of our marriage. I confronted my wife. It wasn't this big dramatic emotional moment. I was just done. I was apathetic, hollow. I felt nothing for her anymore. I told her, "This is not how a person treats someone they love. Do you even love me?" After a long pause, my wife said, "No, I honestly don't love you." And in truth, I didn't love her anymore. I ended it there, telling her, "Fine, we're getting a divorce." And all she said was, "That's your decision, if that's what you want." So that's where we're at. We haven't started anything legally official yet, but we're on our way. I'm sleeping on the couch. She's declared she wants to keep all the pets, except the fish, of course. My son is taking it well. We told him together and all he said was, "It's okay. I knew it was going to happen soon." He's so incredibly smart and mature at 8 years old, and I'm really grateful he understands. We reassured him that we both love him dearly, and that even though this is a big change, we're all going to do everything we can to make this easy. As for her church, I found out all along she was sleeping with a pastor. Nah, I'm just kidding. For some backstory on our church experience, I used to be pretty religious and attended Church A with my wife. I started questioning my faith and told her how I was feeling. She got so angry, angrier than I've ever seen her. She tried to hit me, so I blocked her arm. My wife then screamed at me for putting my hands on her and tried to leave with our son. He was 4 at the time. I refused to let him go with her, and she stormed off on her own. My wife told all of our church friends how much of a monster I was for what I did, to the point where they started encouraging her to call the police on me. She never did. She just told me that's what they advised her to do. After that, I refused to go to that church and later joined Church B, which my wife joined too. She wasn't motivated to go to Church A without me. We left Church B for a multitude of reasons. terrible leadership, money laundering, poor treatment of our son, and my wife insisted we go back to Church A. I tried, but everyone there treated me so coldly. Not once after the incident did any one of my friends from Church A ask how I was doing, or if what they were told was true. I stopped going to church altogether, and she kept going. Now, they've all but excommunicated me, and I never plan to speak to any one of them again. I have a long road ahead of me, but I'm just grateful to be taking the steps I need to be happy and free from this marriage. Thank you, Reddit. In a way, I always knew something had to change, but seeing your replies helped validate everything I was feeling and made me feel a bit less crazy. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to pay a bigger portion of the rent unless my boyfriend does more household chores? I, 31 female, have been with my boyfriend, 36, for almost 4 years, and we've been living together for about 3 years. We met at work, and at the time, both our jobs were not too stressful, and our wages were similar. My boyfriend is still at that company. I changed my job a year ago, and I now earn about 20% more than him. However, my new job comes with a lot of stress, responsibilities, and overtime. We have been fighting about me working too much or prioritizing my work, and my boyfriend feels less of a man because I make more money now. He recently said it was unfair that I'm making that much more and we still split rent 50-50. I get that, and I propose to do 60-40 in the future. However, only if he does more of our household chores in return. I might add, I do the majority of our cleaning. I cook, I do laundry most of the time, and I also think that's not fair because we're both working. On top of that, my job is really intense, and my boyfriend often only works around 4 to 5 hours a day, leaving him plenty of free time. When I suggested that he should contribute more to our household so that I contribute more financially, he got really mad. He said it's not fair. But when he got job offers with a better salary, he refused because he would rather earn less and have more free time than hustle the way I do. Am I the a-hole in this? And should I just pay more without expecting anything in return? My boyfriend feels less of a man because I make more money now. Buy him a new car, a Mitsubishi GTFO. Seriously though, you should consider ending this relationship lest he find other, more odious ways of feeling more manly. Oh, and if the expenses share was based on pay alone, it would be a 6-to-5 ratio, not 60-40. That may not seem like much of a difference, but the latter has you paying 1.5 times as much when you only get 1.2 times the wage. And if you're doing most of the housework as well, you're getting host like the audience at a Rammstein concert. This is very well said. OP's boyfriend is a leech. He does not care about making money because you're doing that, and he's totally okay with it. And he's not okay with it all at the same time. He needs to make up his mind. Either take a job that would actually require him to work more hours just like you did, or be okay with picking up the slack around the apartment. I don't think that doing neither is okay, and I'm a guy. Time to go. He's not interested in being fair and resents your success. Only downhill from here. My ex was like that. 100%. If he resents your success and refuses to step up at home, what's left? It's not about money, it's about respect and effort. If one partner is constantly giving more in every area, it becomes emotional labor too. Time to reevaluate.